15, Exercise 2. Assessment. Schedule. Overview. Spreadsheet. Framework. Exam. Assignment. Quiz. Continuous. Specific. Baseline. Knowledge. Field trip. Presentation. Research. In-depth. Visual aid. Project. Participation. Seminar. Proportion. Percentage. Time management. Discussion. Article. References. Bibliography. Lecture.
Unit 15, Exercise 3. 1. What time is the seminar tomorrow?
2. I just need to add one more book title to my list of references, and then I'm finished.
3. Thank you for your participation in the project.
4. Have you handed in your assignment yet?
5. Jeff was so nervous when he gave his oral presentation to the class.
6. I've looked at the schedule for next semester, and it seems fine to me.
7. Continuous assessment means a lot more work for the teachers. So much marking.
8. The latest research indicates sea temperatures are rising.
Unit 15, Exercise 5. A. I have to give an oral presentation next week. I'll have to stand up in front of everybody and talk on this topic for 3 to 5 minutes. B. Participation in the seminar is important. Our lecturer says we must take part in the discussion. C. Over the next few weeks, I need to gather a lot of information from various sources for my research project. D. Look at this timetable with all the dates of the essays and tests. It's a very busy assessment schedule. E. I've just received a terrible grade for my last assignment. I forgot to make a list of all the books, articles and websites I used to get information for the essay. The lecturer said a list of references is essential.
Unit 15, Exercise 6. A. 1. Field trip. 2. Framework.
B. 1. Assignment. 2. Overview.
C. 1. Continuous. 2. References.
D. 1. Spreadsheet. 2. Specific.
E. 1. Schedule. 2. Research.
F. 1. Lecture. 2. Seminar.
G. 1. Proportion. 2. Presentation.
H. 1. Baseline. 2. Bibliography.
I. 1. Participation. 2. Discussion.
J. 1. Article. 2. Framework. Unit 15, Exercise 7. A. They have to complete one set task every 2 weeks.
B. Yesterday we had a quick short answer knowledge test.
C. I organise my time carefully and keep up to date with my work.
D. Next week, the whole class is going to the mountains to study alpine plants.
E. We need to work out a standard or starting point by which to measure student progress.
F. Professor Brown gave an hour-long talk on that topic.
G. They're finding out facts and collecting information and data for their project.
H. They talked about how many marks to give for each essay, assignment and test.
I. Professor Knox had a piece of writing published in a well-known journal.
J. Accountancy students use a particular computer program to show the figures they're working with.
Unit 15, Exercise 8. A. They have to complete an assignment every 2 weeks. Assignment. ASSIGNMENT.
B. We had a quiz. Quiz. Q-U-I-Z.
C. I have good time management. Time management. TIMEMANAGEMENT.
D. The class is going on a field trip. Field trip. FIELDTRIP.
E. We need to establish a baseline. Baseline. BASELINE.
F. Professor Brown gave a lecture. Lecture. LECTURE.
G. They are doing some research. Research. RESEARCH.
H. They discussed assessment. Assessment. ASSESSMENT.
I. Professor Knox published an article. Article. ARTICLE.
J. Accountancy students often use a spreadsheet to display numbers. Spreadsheet. SPREADSHEET.
Unit 15, Exercise 10. A. Perhaps there is a particular theory you'd like to challenge. B. This research project would involve costly equipment. C. There may be government funding that you can apply for. D. I think we should look at this book. E. That should definitely be the second choice. F. I believe a good system is important. G. We could display the posters in the hall. H. August is probably the best month for handing in the research project.
Unit 15, Exercise 11. Good morning, Emma. Now, you wanted to see me to talk about your postgraduate studies, is that right?
Yes, I graduated last year and I want to continue my studies, but I'm not sure what research topic to choose.
Lots of students have difficulty finding a research topic. One thing is certain, writing your thesis will be much easier if you make the right choice now. Of course, you have some idea of the general subject area that you're interested in?
Yes, but...
And you've read widely in this topic area?
Yes, I have, but I don't always agree with some of the theories that are put forward.
Aha, that's a good place to start. Perhaps there is a particular theory you'd like to challenge. This could be the focus of your research. Another thing you should consider before you decide on your area of specialization, though, is your finances. If your financial resources are limited, perhaps you shouldn't commit to a research project which would involve costly equipment or expensive surveys.
I hadn't thought about that.
Well, there may be government funding you can apply for, or a local business or industry might be willing to provide funding if your research is relevant to what they're doing. Unit 15, Exercise 13. Which books on the reading list do you think will be most useful for our assignment?
Well, to start with, I think we should look at Argyll and Cook, Gaze and Mutual Gaze, Cambridge University Press, 1976.
What a funny title. OK, number 1, Argyll and Cook.
How about Games People Play?
I've heard that title before. Sounds interesting. Games People Play. Who wrote it?
Byrne, Grove Press, New York.
That's number 2 then. And number 3?
That should definitely be Lambert's Body Language, 1996.
All right, Body Language. What's next?
What about Body Language of Children by Saz?
I think our assignment focuses on adult behaviour.
The 4th could be A Psychology of Gesture by Woolf. It's a very old title. It was published by Methuen in London long before we were born, in 1948 actually.
1948? That is old, but if it's been around that long and it's on our reading list, then it must be a classic. Yes, I think we should include that.
Unit 15, Exercise 16. You will hear a senior teacher, Ms. Potts, discussing an assessment schedule for the next academic year with a new teacher, John. Unit 15, IELTS Practice, Listening 1. You would hear a senior teacher, Ms. Potts, discussing an assessment schedule for the next academic year with a new teacher, John. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 through 3.
Thank you, Mrs. Potts, for offering to help me with this assessment schedule.
Well, John, let's get started, shall we?
My computer's over there.
Actually, I prefer to work with a pencil and a big piece of paper to start with. I can get a better overview that way. You can do a spreadsheet when we're finished.
That's fine with me.
OK, you need to create a schedule of assessments to use next year. Is that right?
Yes, I need to develop some kind of framework for assessing student performance over the course of the whole academic year.
I think a good system is important to ensure that you do collect enough evidence for each student. You know, in the good old days, there used to be one major assessment, and that was the final exam. There was a mid-year test and the occasional quiz in class, but the only thing that counted was the final exam mark.
Continuous assessment is fairer, though, don't you agree? Imagine if you got sick or felt terribly nervous on exam day and didn't perform well.
Well, continuous assessment is just that, continuous. So you need to begin by listing the months of the school year.
Right, February to November.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 4 through 10. Now listen to the dialogue and answer questions 4 through 10.
Now, next to each month, allow space to include information on what to assess and how much to assess, as well as the specific assessments.
OK. Now, February is the beginning of the course, so I'll need to gather some baseline information about my students' knowledge of the subject. I think a simple knowledge quiz should cover that. February quiz.
You should set the essay topics early in the year too, so they've got plenty of time to think about them. What assessment have you got planned for March?
Well, we've got a field trip organised for the second week in March. It's part of an ongoing research project, but it's too early for them to have gathered much information. They could do a poster, I suppose, with photographs and other material from the field trip, and we could display them in the hall. March. Poster for display.
And that could lead on very nicely to the next assessment, an oral presentation to be done in April, just before the first term break. They could use their posters as visual aids.
And after the break, in May, I'd like to see how they're getting on with the reading list. A series of quizzes, perhaps, just short answer questions, to check that everyone is keeping up with the reading. It's the only way they'll get sufficient in-depth knowledge for the research assignment.
Oh, good idea. That brings us to June. Mid-year exams, important for tracking students' progress.
And after the term break in July, the essays are due. 5,000-word essay, July.
August is probably the month for handing in the research projects, right?
Yes, and we'll follow that up in September, before the third term break, with a seminar where they can report on their projects to the rest of the class. They'll be marked on their participation in that seminar.
What about a test in October to assess student progress and identify any areas they need to study more before the final exam in November?
Yes, definitely.
Well, I'll leave you now to work out the marking system and determine what proportion of the final mark each assessment is worth.
Unit 15, IELTS Practice, Listening 2. You will hear 2 students discussing their assessment schedule for the year. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 through 4.
Hi, Jim. Have you looked at the geography assessment schedule yet?
Yes, and I'm worried I won't have time for a social life with all the homework.
Oh, come on. You just need good time management skills, that's all.
And it's quite different from last year's, isn't it? I really liked the online discussion group we had last year. I got good marks from participating in those discussions. There's nothing like that this year.
Well, there's the seminar in September. You get marks for participation in that. It's only worth 5% though.
Yeah, but it's not the same. And have you seen the required reading list? There must be half a dozen articles and 20 books at least.
Not quite, Jim. Only 16 books, and some of them we read last year. You're right, there are 6 articles though.
I wonder if we can find them on the internet, or will we have to go to the library and look them up in journals?
Either way, you'll have to read them all, or you won't score well in those quizzes scheduled for May. They're worth 10% of the overall mark for the year.
Oh, May's a long way off.
Time management, Jim. Start your reading now, and then you won't have a last-minute rush in May. Anyway, the more knowledge you gain, the more it'll help you to understand lectures and do your assignments.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 5 through 10. Now listen to the dialogue and answer questions 5 through 10.
What should we study for the quiz next week?
Just revise last year's notes. Anyway, the marks aren't counted. I'm more worried about the poster next month. I'm not very good at artwork.
Just put it roughly on paper and I'll help you with the graphic design on the computer. We're sure to get some good digital pictures on the field trip. A diagram, graph or flowchart, and it's done in no time at all. That's an easy 5%.
Thanks. I'd feel silly using it as a visual aid in my presentation in April if it was really amateurish, but with your help it'll look more professional.
As for that oral presentation, I hate public speaking. I'd rather it was a PowerPoint presentation, and then the audience would be looking at the slides on the screen and not at me.
You'll be fine, Jim. Don't worry. It's only 5% of the final mark. Have you noticed the mid-year exam is worth almost as much as the final exam?
Really?
Yes. The end-of-year exam is just 1/5 of the total, and the mid-year is 15%.
I'd better study hard for them both if I want a good pass mark when it's all over.
I see the 5,000-word essay is due after the July break. I suppose that means working on it over the holiday. And then the following month, the big research project is due, worth 20%, twice as much as the essay. I really hate doing the references and bibliography for those projects.
Me too. Why do you think we're having a test in October, just 1 month before the final examination?
I suppose it's to show up any weaknesses or gaps in our knowledge, so we can target those areas for extra work before the last exam. It's worth the same as the essay, so we'd better study for it.
You know, Eve, this continuous assessment schedule means we're working hard all year.
Yes, but less stress at the end of the year. Now, let's see if it all adds up to 100%.